My name is Willow, and I'm 28. I decided to make it a surprise and come back from a business trip a day early. But the surprise was waiting for me. I walked into my own house and saw my parents methodically taking it apart. Boxes were piled up in the hallway. My mother was wrapping my plates in packing paper. My father was unscrewing the wires from the television. My perfect home, the one I had worked so long and hard for, was in complete chaos. When I, stunned, asked what was going on, they turned to me with smiles. "We're helping you move." "Surprise," my mother said cheerfully. And in that moment, my heart sank. Because I realized this wasn't just a move. It was an eviction. And they weren't helpers. They were the perpetrators. For you to fully understand how wild this situation was, I need to tell you a little about myself. In our family, I was always the one you can rely on. After graduating with honors from design school, I spent 6 years climbing the career ladder at a prestigious architectural firm in Chicago. All those years, I lived in a tiny rented apartment, saving every dollar. I took on side jobs on weekends, packed lunches from home, forgot what a vacation was, and drove an old car I'd had since college. I sacrificed everything for a single goal, to buy my dream home. And 3 years ago, I did it. I bought a charming 3-bedroom house with an overgrown garden in a quiet, green suburb. It needed repairs, but it had what we call good bones. Every single weekend, I painted the walls, sanded the floors, and tended to the garden myself. This house wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of my independence, my success, my future. I planned to turn one room into a home office, another into a studio for my design projects. It was my personal space, my fortress that I had built myself. My relationship with my parents has always been, let's say, peculiar. They gave me a good childhood, but the center of their universe was always my older brother, Leo. Any of his actions, whether dropping out of college or another failed business idea, were always met with understanding and support. My achievements, however, were taken for granted. I could get a top grade and only hear, "Well, we didn't expect anything less from you." But for Leo's slightest success, he was praised to the skies. 2 years ago, Leo married Chloe, a very pleasant and gentle girl. And 4 months ago, they announced they were expecting their first child. My parents were ecstatic. They had wanted grandchildren for a long time. I was genuinely happy for them and offered my professional help in designing the nursery. Despite our complicated relationship, I always helped them. When my parents' roof leaked, I paid for a new one. When Leo's laptop broke for his latest genius project, I bought him a new one. When their dog needed emergency surgery, the bill, of course, was sent to me. I didn't mind. I could afford it, and family is family. For weeks before that day, we were having dinner at my parents' house. Leo casually mentioned that they were having problems with their landlord and might have to move out soon. I expressed my sympathy but didn't think much of it. No one even hinted that my home was being considered as a possible solution to their problem. The following week, I flew out on a business trip. The presentation for a new client went brilliantly, and I was able to finish all my work 2 days early. I was eagerly looking forward to returning home to my peace and comfort. I could never have imagined that my early return would uncover a betrayal that would change everything forever. When I pulled up to my house, I saw my parents' cars in the driveway. My first thought was alarm. What if something had happened? They weren't supposed to know I was back early. But then I heard noise from inside and saw a stack of cardboard boxes near the garage. A bad feeling tightened in my chest. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the door. I had no idea that behind that door, a scene full of entitlement and deceit was waiting for me. A scene that would push me to the hardest choice of my life. I opened the door and walked into my own home, which had been turned into a warehouse. There were boxes everywhere, some empty, others already taped shut. From the kitchen, I could hear my mother's voice talking about packing paper. In the living room, my father was taking my TV off the wall. "Mom? Dad? What's going on here?" I asked. My suitcase dropped to the floor with a thud. My mother came out to meet me with a roll of tape in her hand and the most innocent smile. "Willow. You're early. We wanted to surprise you." "What surprise?" I didn't recognize my own voice. "What are you doing with my things?" My parents glanced at each other, and my mother approached me as if she were announcing I'd won the lottery. "We're helping you move, sweetie. We found a wonderful studio for you downtown, just 15 minutes from your work. Imagine how much time you'll save on your commute." "Move? To a studio? What are you talking about?" I scanned the half-empty room. "Just don't worry," said my father, putting down his tools. "This is the perfect solution for everyone. Why do you need such a big house all by yourself? And Leo and Chloe need a bigger place now that they're expecting a baby," my mother added. "They've been looking for so long and couldn't afford anything." And then it hit us, the perfect solution was right under our noses the whole time. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what I was hearing. They were packing up my house, which I had bought with my own money, to give to my brother. "And where did you put my things?" I managed to say, noticing the empty shelves. "We've already moved almost everything to your new studio," my father replied with pride. "It's turning out very cute. A perfect little nest for a single girl." I rushed upstairs. My bedroom was still almost untouched, but my home office was already completely dismantled and packed in boxes. "You can't just decide for me," I shouted. "This is my house. I pay for it." My mother looked at me with genuine surprise, as if I had said something foolish. "Willow, don't be selfish. Your brother is about to have a baby. He needs this house more. We've already promised him he can move in next week. They're giving their landlord notice today," my father added, as if it were a minor detail. "What?" I couldn't believe my ears. "You gave away my house without even asking me?" "We knew you'd want to help your brother," my mother said in a tone that suggested I was the one being unreasonable. "You've always been so generous." I rushed into my office. Almost everything was packed. My most valuable architectural reference books, a collection I had been building for years, were gone. "Where are my books?" I asked. "We took them to the studio yesterday," my mother answered. "Why do you need so many? There's no room for them there anyway." And then I noticed something worse. My locked file drawer had been forced open. "You went through my personal papers?" I whispered. My parents looked at each other again. "We needed some information," my father admitted. "For the rental application." "What rental application?" "The studio apartment," my mother said slowly, as if explaining to a child. "Someone else could have taken it, we had to act fast. We signed the lease." "You signed a lease in my name?" I screamed. "Well, we are your parents," my father began to justify. "We have all your information. We're not strangers." I looked at them, unable to believe what I was hearing. This was document forgery. A criminal offense. "How did you even get in here?" "We have a spare key, remember?" My mother reminded me. "Ever since your pipe burst." At that moment, the front door opened, and in walked Leo and Chloe, holding a fan of paint samples. "Oh, Willow, you're early," Leo said, surprised, and without any hesitation, walked into the living room. "We were just choosing a color for the nursery." What do you think, blue or a soft sky blue? Chloe, with her visibly rounded belly, gave a guilty smile. You have a beautiful home, Willow. We're so grateful. We decided the nursery will be upstairs, and your office can be turned into a playroom later on. They were already planning how they would change MY house. I think there's been a misunderstanding, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I'm not moving anywhere. An awkward silence fell. Willow's just a little in shock, my mother laughed nervously. We just wanted to help her, get more done before she got back. I'm not in shock, Mom. I'm furious, I corrected her. No one asked me if I wanted to move. No one asked if I wanted to give my house to Leo and Chloe. Don't be ridiculous, my father scoffed. Family should help each other. Your brother needs this house more than you do. You'll be perfectly fine in a smaller apartment. This isn't about who needs what more, I replied firmly. It's about the fact that this is my property. Mine. And no one but me will decide what to do with it. Leo looked at me with that same expression of superiority I'd known since childhood. Oh, come on, Willow, don't make things complicated. It's just a house. When you get married and have kids, you can buy another one. And in that moment, it hit me. It hit me with deafening clarity. They didn't just disrespect me. They didn't see me as a complete person with my own rights and boundaries at all. To them, I was just a resource. And I realized that if I didn't stop this now, it would never end. Stop it, immediately, I said, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. This is my house. I had no intention of moving anywhere. I did not give Leo and Chloe permission to live here. And I certainly did not give anyone the right to sign any contracts in my name. My mother's face darkened. Willow, be reasonable. We've already paid the security deposit for the studio. We took the money from your emergency fund, from that folder you keep in your desk. You went through my papers? I was horrified. That's not just wrong. It's illegal. Don't use words like that, my father warned. We're your parents. We're acting in your best interests. In my best interests? I laughed. You're kicking me out of my own home for my best interests. You're just being selfish. Steel entered my mother's voice. Your brother is about to have a baby. They need stability. Then maybe Leo should have thought about stability before having kids. I blurted out. Leo's face twisted with anger. That's nice, Willow. Always thinking you're better than everyone else with your good job and big house. I don't think I'm better, I replied. I just think I deserve basic respect. And the right not to be evicted from my own home without my consent. At that moment, Chloe burst into tears. I knew this wouldn't work. We're going to be stuck in that tiny place with a baby because his sister won't budge. My mother immediately wrapped her in a hug, stroking her head. It's going to be okay, dear. Willow will come to her senses, she said, shooting me a look full of undisguised threat. I'm always the one coming to my senses, I replied, looking at Leo. Who paid for your new laptop when the old one suddenly broke? Who paid the vet bill when your dog got sick? I've always helped. But this is my home. That's exactly why we had to do everything without your knowledge, because you're always so stubborn, my father said. We just decided to spare you the unnecessary arguments. Spare me the arguments by forging my signature? I asked. That's a criminal offense. Oh, stop it, Leo interjected. What crime? We're not strangers. Strangers don't kick you out of your own house, I replied. And family, I thought, even less so. My mother's face hardened. I didn't raise you for this. A family takes care of its own. Your brother is in need, and you have the means to help him. I have helped him for years, I answered. But there's a line between helping and being used. We've already told everyone, Chloe sobbed. My parents, our friends. I even posted about it on social media yesterday. You what? I stared at her. That was also supposed to be a surprise for you, Leo added, as if that changed anything. We were even going to help you with the moving expenses. As a thank you. How nice of you, I couldn't resist the sarcasm. To help me pay for a move I never agreed to. My father stepped toward me. Willow, that's enough. The matter is settled. The lease on the studio is signed. Leo and Chloe need this house. You will do the right thing and help your family. The right thing, I repeated. The right thing would have been to ask me first. The right thing is to respect my property, I finished. But you would have said no, my mother stated calmly, as if that explained everything. Yes. I probably would have, I replied. Because it's my house. And my right. Too late, Leo inserted smugly. The lease is signed, we've already given our landlord notice. Anyway, Willow, we're doing you a favor. Your new studio is much closer to work. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Show me this lease. My mother reluctantly pulled a folded paper from her purse. I unfolded it. At the bottom was a clumsy forgery of my signature. The studio was indeed downtown, a tiny closet, half the size of my bedroom, for a price nearly equal to my monthly mortgage payment. This is absurd, I said. Do you seriously think I would trade my house for this expensive shoebox? It's more than enough for one person, my father snapped. You're always at work anyway. What does that have to do with anything? I was no longer holding back my shouting. You had no right to decide for me. We're your parents, my mother pronounced. We know best. I'm 28 years old. I know where I want to live. Always with your independence, Leo scoffed. Just for once, think about someone else. Chloe is pregnant. We need a place to live. Leo insisted. Then you should have thought about that before having a baby, I retorted. Chloe burst into tears again. You see? She's doing this on purpose to upset me. And I'm not supposed to get stressed. Look what you've done to the poor girl, my mother's eyes flashed. I was on the verge of breaking down. They had broken into my house, forged my signature, and I was still the one to blame. I want you all to leave, I said quietly but firmly. Immediately. Willow, my father began in a warning tone, think carefully. We are your family. Yes. And a family should respect boundaries. A family should not forge documents. And a family should not take what isn't theirs. Take? My mother was offended. We haven't taken anything. You are trying to take my house from me, I said. And you've already moved some of my things to an apartment I didn't rent. Oh, come on, it's just stuff, my father waved his hand dismissively. What's more important to you, your junk or the people who love you? And there it was, the classic move I had known my whole life. Family is the most important thing. The most important thing, even if it meant one person sacrificed everything and others sacrificed nothing. If you do this, steel entered my mother's voice, it means you're choosing things over the people who love you. Do you really want to be that kind of person? Yeah, sis, Leo chimed in. Is your precious house worth losing your family over? I looked at their faces, my parents' self-righteousness, Leo's confident expression, Chloe's calculated tears. And in that moment, the veil lifted from my eyes. This wasn't love. And it wasn't care. It was pure exploitation, wrapped in a beautiful package called family duty. Get out, I repeated, and this time there wasn't a shadow of a doubt in my voice. All of you. Out of my house. Now. Willow and, my father said my full name. He hadn't done that since I was a teenager. If you refuse to help your brother now, you can consider yourself no longer a part of this family. It was their last, most powerful threat. The one that had worked on me for years without fail. But this time, something inside me broke. The years-long habit of being obedient cracked under the weight of this absurd demand. Well, that's your choice, I said quietly. But this is my house. And I'm not giving it up. Please leave. Before this gets worse. After my ultimatum, silence hung in the room. My mother was the first to break it. Are you serious? Her voice trembled with genuine astonishment. You're willing to give up your family for some house? It's not about the house, Mom, I tried to explain. It's about respect. About the fact that you made a decision that turns my entire life upside down without even asking me. We knew you'd be stubborn, my father said. You always were. Leo stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. So, what's the deal? You're going to wander around this palace alone while my pregnant wife is crammed into a shoebox. Great, Willow. Very sisterly. Leo, I'm very sorry you're having housing problems, but that doesn't mean I'm obligated to give you my home. I always knew you were selfish, he hissed. You only think about yourself. Hearing an accusation of selfishness from Leo, who had never supported himself in his life, was the height of irony. I can't count how many times I've helped you, I reminded him. Paid your bills, bought you things, bailed you out with money every time you were in transition. There you go again, he grimaced. Saint Willow remembers everything, keeps score. You think because you have a stable job, you're somehow better than me? It's not about who's better, I replied wearily. It's about the fact that you simply decided for me that I should give up my house. Chloe looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. But we've already planned everything, she sobbed. We wanted to change the floors, repaint the nursery, maybe even knock down the wall between the kitchen and living room to make it more open. I stared at her in utter disbelief. You were going to renovate my house? Of course. Leo's face lit up. And put a swing set in the yard for the baby. And we'll turn your studio into a man cave for me, Leo added. My studio. My workspace with perfect lighting, where I did my side jobs. Into a man cave. Unbelievable, I whispered. My father glanced at his watch. We're wasting time. There's still a lot to pack if we want to finish by the weekend. I'm not going anywhere. I shouted. How many times do I have to repeat it? This is my house. My mother's face became impassive. Willow, think very carefully. Family is forever. Are you ready to cut ties with us over some walls? You're the ones cutting ties. I retorted. You broke into my home and are trying to evict me. We're trying to help you. Your new apartment is closer to work. If you wanted to help me, you would have asked me what I wanted. My father stepped forward, his gaze hardening. I'll say this once. Either you accept the situation and help your brother, or you can consider yourself without a family. No family? Exactly. No Sunday dinners. No meeting your future nephew. No holidays. Is your house worth that? My father continued to press. In that moment, memories flooded my mind. I'm 10, and my parents take the money I've been saving for college to pay for Leo's car repairs. We'll pay you back, they promised. They never did. I'm 16, I win a prestigious competition, and they don't come to the awards ceremony because Leo has a small problem, which turns out to be a scratch on his bumper. My graduation, which they leave right after the diplomas are handed out because Leo needs to prepare for an interview in another city. An interview he ended up failing. All the pain and injustice of those years washed over me at once. And now they wanted to take the last thing. The thing I had worked the hardest for. My house. My sanctuary. The only thing that was truly mine. I need a minute, I said, my voice breaking. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and, leaning against the sink, looked at myself in the mirror. Red eyes, tear-stained face. I didn't recognize myself. Who are these people? I whispered to my reflection. And why have I let them treat me like this for so long? And in that moment, a clarity pierced through me. It would never stop. Ever. Unless I stopped it myself. All my life, they had used my kindness and my desperate desire to earn their love. I was taught that my role was to yield, to sacrifice, to make myself smaller so that Leo could seem bigger. And now they wanted to take my house, the culmination of all my sacrifices, and give it to him. To shove me into a tiny closet so Leo could have what he didn't deserve. And it wouldn't stop. There would always be a new need, a new demand, a new sacrifice. Unless I put an end to it. Right now. In that moment, I felt the years-long habit of yielding give way to a cold resolve. I knew there was no turning back. I dialed 911 and, calmly, without a tremor in my voice, answered the operator's questions. I explained that my relatives were in my home and refusing to leave. That they were packing my personal belongings and that a lease had been signed in my name without my knowledge. After hanging up, I felt a wave of nausea, but through it, a new feeling was breaking through, relief. I had just done the unthinkable, asked the authorities for help to protect myself from my own family. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could take a full breath. I unlocked the bathroom door and returned to the living room. They were still animatedly discussing what color to paint the walls. The police are on their way, I announced calmly. All conversation stopped. 4 pairs of eyes stared at me with expressions of complete shock. You called the police? My mother breathed. On your own family? Yes, I replied. I asked you to leave. You refused. You left me no choice. You want us to get taken to the station? Leo asked with genuine surprise. I want you removed from my private property, I corrected him. And I intend to report the incident with the signature, because it's illegal. And this is your gratitude? My father's face turned purple. After everything we've done for you? I let out a bitter laugh. And what exactly have you done for me, Dad? When was the last time you put my interests first? When did you support a single one of my decisions? We raised you, he shouted. Yes, you fulfilled your legal minimum, I agreed. And I've spent my entire adult life solving your financial problems. But taking my house from me, that's going too far. I can't believe you're doing this, said Chloe, covering her belly with her hand. Who calls the police on their own family? Someone who has finally realized that family isn't supposed to use you, I answered. And, as if on cue, there was a knock at the door. 2 police officers were standing on the threshold. We received a report about trespassers in the house who are refusing to leave, said the female officer. In that moment, as I prepared to tell them the whole story, I knew one thing: my life would never be the same. But I also knew that for the first time in a long time, I was doing the right thing. Not for my brother, not for my parents. For myself. I'm Willow, I said to the officers, and my voice sounded surprisingly steady. This is my house. I called you because these people are here without my permission and refuse to leave. I'm Officer Davis, this is Officer Chen, the woman introduced herself. Can you explain the problem? My father immediately stepped forward. Officer, this is just a misunderstanding. We're her parents. And this is her brother and his wife. Just a family matter. Is that correct? Officer Davis looked at me. Yes, they are my relatives, I confirmed. But they are here without my knowledge. I returned from a trip to find them packing my things. They've already moved some of it. And, on top of that, they forged my signature on a lease agreement. That's not true, my mother interjected. We're just helping her move. She's being completely unreasonable. I did not consent to moving, I stated clearly. This is my house. I am the owner. I pay the bills. No one received my permission to pack my belongings or rent another home for me. Officer Chen was taking notes in a notepad. Do you have documents proving ownership? Yes, I mentally thanked myself for installing a safe in the closet. I can show you the deed and mortgage statements. She's just not herself, my father said dismissively. We're her parents, we know what's best for her. Sir, Officer Davis said calmly but firmly, if this lady is the legal owner of this house and she has asked you to leave, you must comply. But this is absurd. Leo interjected. You can't just call the police on your own family. Family ties are not a legal defense, Officer Chen explained. If a property owner asks you to leave their property and you refuse, that's trespassing. I went upstairs to get the documents. My hands were shaking, but I was full of resolve. When I returned, I handed the officers the deed and my ID. And here, I added, handing them the lease, is the document they signed in my name, using my personal information. Officer Davis examined the lease carefully. Did you give anyone permission to sign documents on your behalf? Never, I answered firmly. But we're her emergency contacts, my mother chimed in. We just wanted what was best. Being an emergency contact does not give you the right to sign legal documents, Officer Chen explained. For that, you would need a notarized power of attorney. But we're her parents, my father repeated, like a broken record. Sir, your daughter is a legal adult, not your property, Officer Davis said patiently. She has every right to decide for herself where she lives. So now what? Leo asked defiantly. Now, you will all leave this house, Officer Chen replied. And the lady will decide later whether she wants to press charges regarding the forged signature and the removal of her property. My mother burst into tears. I can't believe you're doing this to us, Willow, after everything we've done for you. What about the things you've already moved? I interrupted, ignoring her tears. You will have to return every last box, said Officer Davis. Otherwise, she can file a police report for theft. Theft? My father sputtered. We're not thieves. We're her family. Taking possession of someone else's property without permission is theft, regardless of your relationship, Officer Chen explained calmly. Chloe, who had been silent until then, asked quietly, what about the lease? We already told our landlord we're moving out. That is not this lady's problem, Officer Davis answered firmly. A lease signed in her name is not legally binding as it was procured through fraudulent means. She has no obligation under it. They looked at the officers as if they couldn't believe things weren't going their way. Did they really think the police would take their side and force me to give them my house? Just because we're family? And now I'm asking you to leave, I said, feeling a surprising sense of calm. We'll arrange for the return of my things later. But for now, leave my house. Willow, my mother pleaded. Don't do this. Think about it. I have thought about it, I replied quietly. I thought about all the years you put Leo ahead of me. About how you took my help for granted. And about how you tried to take the one thing from me that was truly mine. I've had enough. Under the watchful eyes of the officers, my family silently gathered their bags, coats, and paint samples and headed for the exit. This isn't over, my father threw at me as a parting shot. On the contrary, I replied. This is the end. And if you ever try anything like this again, I will not hesitate to take legal action against you. When the door closed behind them, Officer Davis looked at me with sympathy. Are you okay? Maybe you should call someone, so you're not alone tonight? I thought of Emily, my childhood friend who had recently moved back to Chicago after finishing law school. She was one of the few people who knew the whole story of my family. Yes, I have someone to call, I replied. And I'm calling a locksmith today to change all the locks. Excellent decision, Officer Chen nodded. And if I were you, I'd consider a restraining order. After the police left, I called Emily. Half an hour later, she was at my door with pizza and a bottle of wine. I'm just in shock, she said after listening to my story. Although, why am I surprised? Remember how they took the money you were saving for a prom dress to pay for Leo's spring break trip? I nodded. Even after all these years, it still hurt. They've always been like this. I just never thought they'd go this far. I'm so proud of you for finally standing up to them, Emily said firmly. And, as your lawyer friend, I strongly advise you, document everything and file for a restraining order. That same evening, we had a locksmith change all the locks in the house. The next day, I arranged for security cameras to be installed around the perimeter. If they decided to come back, would have proof. We sat on the sofa amidst the boxes, and I felt a strange mixture of grief and relief. In a way, I had lost my family today. Or rather, I had finally admitted that I never really had one in the way I wanted. But in defending myself, I had gained something far more valuable, self-respect. For the first time in my life, I refused to be a doormat. I said no. And despite the pain and the uncertain future, I knew with certainty that I had done the right thing. The consequences were not long in coming. By morning, my phone was blowing up with messages not just from my parents and Leo, but from our entire extended family and family friends. It was clear my parents had already spread their version of events. How could you call the police on your own parents? Your brother is about to have a baby. Do you have no heart? After everything they've done for you, this is how you repay them? The general message was the same. I was selfish and heartless for refusing to give my house to my brother. They've twisted everything, Emily said over coffee in the morning. She had stayed the night on my couch. I'm sure they didn't tell anyone about the forged signature or that they broke into your house. Of course not, I sighed. In their story, I'm the villain who won't help her brother. A classic manipulator's tactic, Emily nodded. Make you look bad so no one asks them any tough questions. I took a day off from work to recover and start cleaning up the mess. While technicians installed cameras around the house, I began unpacking boxes. In the afternoon, my boss, Ms. Albright, called. I thought she wanted to discuss my trip report, but her voice sounded concerned. Willow, is everything all right? Your mother called the office this morning. She said you were having a family crisis and that she needed to get in touch with you urgently. A cold dread washed over me. My mother had called my work. Ms. Albright, I apologize for her disturbing you. We're having some disagreements, but it will not affect my work in any way. I assured her everything was under control and hung up, seething with rage. You need to file for that restraining order. Right now, Emily said. This is no longer just a family conflict. This is harassment. That same day, we were in court. Thanks to Emily's help, we provided the judge with everything: photos of my ransacked house, the lease with the forged signature, and a copy of the police report. The judge, without hesitation, issued a temporary restraining order. My parents, my brother, and his wife were forbidden from coming near me, my home, or my place of work for 30 days. A hearing for a permanent order was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Getting a restraining order against my own parents stirred a storm of conflicting emotions in me. On one hand, relief; on the other, a devastating sadness. When we returned to my house, a moving truck was already parked outside. My heart skipped a beat. Were they already here? But Emily quickly reassured me. Looks like they're bringing your things back. Let's not get out just yet. We sat in the car and watched as my parents unloaded boxes onto my lawn. It was a surreal picture. As soon as the last box touched the ground, a sheriff's deputy's car pulled up. We saw the officer approach them and hand them papers. I couldn't make out the words, but I saw how their faces changed. My father turned purple with rage, and my mother looked as if she was about to faint. "Well, that's that," Emily said quietly. I didn't know what to feel. I had just drawn a line. A line that, perhaps, there would be no coming back from. Events unfolded quickly after that. I threw myself into my work, trying to focus on my project, but it wasn't easy. My colleagues could see I wasn't myself, but I didn't tell anyone what was happening. It was too embarrassing to admit that my own family had tried to take my home from me. The phone didn't stop ringing. Relatives split into 2 camps. Some sent angry messages, parroting my parents' words, while others called in confusion, trying to understand what had happened. In the end, I sent a short, dry message to the 3 people whose opinions I cared about: my godmother, a close cousin, and an old university mentor. In it, I simply stated the facts. Upon returning home, I found my parents packing my things. They forged my signature on a lease and told Leo and Chloe they were giving them my house. When I objected, they threatened to disown me. I asked them to leave, they refused, and I had to call the police. I now have a restraining order. The responses varied. My godmother was horrified and completely on my side. My cousin was sympathetic but advised me to find a compromise for the sake of peace in the family. My mentor responded briefly and clearly: setting boundaries is the right thing to do. Stay strong. By the end of the week, I was completely exhausted. I slept poorly and jumped at every noise outside the door. Despite the new locks and cameras, I felt unsafe. Emily recommended a good therapist, and I made an appointment with a Dr. Evans, who specialized in family conflicts. The very first session was eye-opening. "What you're describing," Dr. Evans said after listening to my story, "is a classic case of emotional manipulation that has gone on for years. You were conditioned to believe that your brother's needs are always more important than yours. The situation with the house is not the cause, but the consequence." But maybe I was too harsh. I confessed. "After all, it's just a house." "Willow," she said gently, "let's imagine this didn't happen to you, but to your friend. What would you advise her if she told you that someone broke into her house, packed her things, and forged her signature on documents? Would you tell her she was being too harsh?" Framed that way, the answer was obvious. No. I'd tell her to take them to court immediately. Exactly. For some reason, we are willing to forgive family for things we would never forgive strangers. But kinship is not a license to violate your rights and boundaries. Over the next few weeks, I lived in a new routine: work, therapy sessions, and evenings with Emily and a small circle of supportive friends. Finally, the day of the hearing for the permanent restraining order arrived. My parents and Leo came with their lawyer, playing the role of the wronged and misunderstood family. They didn't look my way, but I could feel their glares. Their lawyer tried to present the whole thing as a family misunderstanding. "My clients," he said, "are just loving parents who wanted to help both of their children. Perhaps they were a bit overzealous, but their intentions were pure." Emily shut that down decisively. Intentions don't matter when the actions are illegal. The respondents trespassed in the lady's home, removed her property, and forged her signature. And when she tried to stop them, they began harassing her at her place of work. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, was not impressed by their defense. Good intentions are not an excuse for breaking the law. Parents do not have the right to control the lives of their adult children. She granted the restraining order for a period of 6 months. My family left the courtroom without looking at me. My mother hung dramatically on my father's arm, feigning deep sorrow. Although the break with my family was painful, with each passing week, it became easier to breathe. Freed from the constant stress, I was able to fully concentrate on my work. My project ended in triumph, and I received a promotion. Sometimes, news about them would reach me. I heard that Leo and Chloe did find a 2-bedroom apartment, not my dream house, but a decent place for a young family. Leo even managed to hold down a job for more than 4 months. Apparently, impending fatherhood had an effect on him. My parents, I was told, complained to everyone that I had broken their hearts and abandoned the family. Some people believed them. Others, who had known our family for a long time, had their doubts. Sometimes I missed them. But I didn't miss the real them. I missed the idealized picture of a family that I never had. I didn't miss the constant pressure and the need to sacrifice my interests for my brother's sake. Months went by, and I realized I had gotten back more than just a house. I had gotten myself back. For the first time in my life, I stopped being just the responsible daughter who solves everyone's problems. I was just Willow, a designer, a homeowner, a friend. A woman walking her own path. And despite all the pain of the rupture and the judgment from those who didn't understand, I never for a second doubted my decision. There are some things you cannot sacrifice. Not even for family. My house was worth fighting for. But my self-respect was worth so much more. 6 months after that day, I was standing in my kitchen, making dinner for friends. My house looked better than ever. I had finished a small renovation I had long dreamed of, and my home office had become the center of my thriving freelance business. The restraining order had expired, but my personal boundaries remained unshakable. I hadn't heard from my parents for several months, but on my birthday, my mother sent a card. It contained no direct apology, only a vague phrase: "We miss you and hope you will reconsider your attitude towards family." But even that was a step forward. I replied briefly and clearly, "I am open to a dialogue, but only on terms of mutual respect." And, following my therapist's advice, I added that if they truly wanted to mend the relationship, we would all have to attend family therapy. A couple of weeks later, my father called. The conversation was stilted and superficial, but at the end, he invited me to dinner to talk. After consulting with Dr. Evans, I agreed, but on one condition: we meet at a restaurant, on neutral territory. Emily promised to be on standby if I needed support. The dinner was tense but polite. My parents looked tired, as if the past few months had aged them considerably. My mother did most of the talking, sharing news about relatives. My father silently picked at his food. It was only when dessert arrived that my mother dared to broach the main topic. "We've been thinking. Maybe we weren't entirely right in that situation with your house." It was far from a full apology, but for her, it was a huge step. "No, you weren't right," I replied, not softening my words, but not escalating either. "We wanted what was best for everyone," my father interjected. "Best from your point of view," I gently corrected. "But you didn't ask what would be best for me." They exchanged a look. But we're your parents, my mother said, but without her former conviction. Yes, I nodded. And I'm your adult daughter who has the right to decide for herself where she lives. My father slowly nodded. Your brother found an apartment, he said, as if that solved everything. I'm happy for them, I replied. It wasn't the conversation I had hoped for. There were no tears, no remorse, no promises to respect my boundaries. But it was a start. An admission that something was broken. And that it needed to be fixed. We agreed not to rush things. I wasn't ready for big family holidays involving Leo yet, but I agreed to occasional dinners with just my parents. They, in turn, promised not to pressure me or bring up reconciling with your brother. 2 months ago, Chloe gave birth to a healthy baby boy. I sent them a gift of baby clothes but declined to visit and see my nephew. It was still too soon. The memories of her tears and their shared sense of entitlement were too fresh. Give yourself time, Dar. Evans would say in our sessions, which were now once a month. Rebuilding family ties is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be steps forward and steps back. The most important thing is that you hold on to your boundaries. And I held on. For the first time in my life, I wasn't sacrificing myself for the sake of peace in the family. I was putting my own mental well-being first. And it changed everything. My career took off. All the energy that used to go into worrying about family drama was now channeled into creativity and work. Soon, I was leading my own team on several major projects. My house transformed from a battlefield into a true sanctuary. I often hosted dinners for friends, started a book club, and turned one of the spare rooms into a yoga and meditation studio. Every corner of my home now reflected what was important to me. But most importantly, my relationships with people became deeper and more honest. I surrounded myself with those who respected my boundaries and valued me for who I was. You've changed so much, my colleague, Jessica, said to me at one of those dinners. You've become so whole. I smiled. Yeah. I just learned how to stand up for myself. Even when it's really hard. Especially when it's hard. Exactly 1 year after that day, I took a day off and drove to Indiana Dunes National Park. Standing on the observation deck, watching the sunset paint the sky over Lake Michigan, I thought about the long road I had traveled. The pain of betrayal hadn't completely disappeared, but it was no longer sharp. In its place was a quiet strength and self-confidence. I realized that family isn't always about who you share blood with. It's about those who respect you and support you unconditionally. The people who were with me through this entire year, Emily, my colleagues, my therapist, they became my real family. My relationship with my parents was slowly improving, though I knew it would never be the same as before. They were trying, learning to respect my boundaries, even if they sometimes slipped into old habits. Leo still kept his distance, still seeing me as selfish. And I learned to accept that. I felt like I had come full circle. The house that was the cause of the conflict was now truly mine, not just on paper, but in my soul. I had defended it. But more importantly, I had defended myself. In the evening, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine, watching the fireflies in the garden I had planted that spring. My phone vibrated. A message from Emily, thinking of you today. So proud of the journey you've been on. I smiled and typed back, thanks for being there when I needed it most. Having dinner with my parents tomorrow. Wish me luck. The reply came instantly. You don't need luck. You have boundaries and a spine of steel now. You've got this. And I knew she was right. I've got this. I understand my journey isn't over. There will be new challenges, moments when I'll have to defend my boundaries again. But now I have both the voice and the strength to do it. I learned the most important lesson: saying no to manipulation is not selfishness. It's a necessary condition for survival and for building healthy relationships. My home is still my sanctuary. But the most important thing I gained is the knowledge that I am worthy of being fought for. That my needs matter. That my boundaries are real. And that I have enough courage to demand they be respected. This story is for everyone who has ever fought for their personal boundaries or felt they had to sacrifice themselves for their family. Have you ever faced similar pressure? And what helped you stand up for yourself? Share your experience in the comments. If you found my story important, I would be grateful for your like, subscription, and for sharing this video with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening. And remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's the foundation of your own peace and happiness.